one for the Consul General of France. France's highest legal authority has ruled that a law that would have made it illegal to deny the mass killings of Armenians by Ottoman Turks, they ruled that that was unconstitutional. We realize that all four of your nations acknowledge the Armenian genocide, but the proposed French law seems to take the issue further. Could you please comment?
We were very proud of that law, actually, because we thought that the only fact that denying the genocide wasn't prohibited, and the Constitutional Court, the French Constitutional Council, decided that it was against the Constitution because it is not the role of the law to say that kind of things. So it's a very judicial reason that led to that decision. I don't know. I think it's part of a process to say that thing loudly that can help some countries to have a clear and fresh look at their own history. And when I say some countries, of course, I have Turkey in mind. And I think that our Turkish friends have to face their own history, as we all did. And I think once they will have done that, they will be a more modern country. And I hope it's not provocative to say that, but that's really what I think. I would be more comfortable having a neighbor who's able to see and to acknowledge the fact that they have that in their history, and not react as they do when the whole world tells them, hey, maybe you should consider what happened between 1915 and 1918 in your own history, in your own country.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm going to combine some defense-related questions. And this one goes out to the entire panel. Perhaps we could ask one or two panelists to comment. The questions relate to Iran, Afghanistan, and NATO. They are, what is the EU's position or positions on permitting Iran to have access to weapons of mass destruction? The next question is, given the problems you have in Europe, how long will you be involved in Afghanistan? And finally, the military footprint of the U.S. As it pertains to EU economic matters. When this settles down, do you think there can be time and resources for more of a European burden in the sharing of NATO obligations? So Iran, Afghanistan, and sharing the burden of obligations to NATO. For the panel, whoever would like to respond.
I'm ready to answer maybe the first and the last question. First question, the European Union has been very strong on the position that Iran can't be allowed the nuclear weapon. And the sanctions decided by the European Union have always been much stronger than the sanctions decided by the United Nations. Because it's easier to get an agreement, believe it or not, and we don't always believe it, by the way, but on this particular matter, discussions in the European Union have been extremely easy and quick to make a decision on, always, by the way, toughening the sanctions, the regime of sanctions towards Iran. On the question of the financial burden of defense, it's funny to hear the question put like that, and it's good to hear it put like that, because for years we've been trying with our German and Italian and Greek friends to build a European unified defense or coordinated defense. And it's been a tough road and a bumpy road because precisely NATO and our American friends and allies have been trying to prevent that to happen, seeing that European defense as a threat to their own leadership, which is not the case, of course. The idea behind that was the fact that there would be, and there had been, conflicts or situations in Europe or around Europe that needed or that will need military actions, and that our American friends were not ready to do. But we Europeans had to deal with it. So that was the idea behind trying to build a European defense. And at the same time, the American administration was leading towards an effort from the European side to so that we European countries could take a larger part of the effort. At the same time we heard that, we had to face criticisms for trying to build a European defense. So I think the balance is between that. Of course, NATO is a very effective and very efficient organization. That's why France joined it. That France was a founder with others of NATO, and President Sarkozy decided to reintegrate the unified command. So we believe in NATO, but we know that NATO won't be willing to deal with all the situations around Europe or in Europe. And so that's why we definitely think that we still have to keep on building that European defense.
Thank you. Would anyone care to comment on involvement in Afghanistan?
I can do that. The crisis in Afghanistan is precisely this case of why the partnership between the European Union, European countries and the United States is very important. Because whenever there are crises in the world, the group of countries that most rapidly ally themselves with the US and try to solve those crises are Europeans. So I just care to underline that, because sometimes we talk about emerging global actors and we forget that the traditional alliances are those that are the most important one, and the ones that you can always count on. On Afghanistan specifically, I would say that Europeans have been with the US since the beginning within ISAF. European military presence made, I think, about, I don't have the exact numbers now, but they would make almost between 1/3 and 1/4 of the overall presence. There have been many European victims, and the European participated actively since the very beginning. When President Obama decided for the surge, the Europeans were the ones that first increased their presence, and together we are achieving important results. The stabilization of Afghanistan is a key priority, not just for the US, but also for European countries, and we keep being in this together.
Perhaps I can add something, and I apologize to tell you this is not in my capacity. I don't speak as the spokesman of the German government now. I tell you simply what the debate is in Germany. As my Italian colleague has said, the government is very close to the American strategy. As you know, the next NATO summit will be in Chicago in May, will be soon, and they will debate this. Afghanistan. I would like to tell you what the people think, and I can tell you the Afghanistan war, any war, is not popular in Germany. The question is, how do we get out of it in a decent way? And my personal reflection is, you can perhaps win a war militarily on the battlefield, but what you should win are the hearts and minds of the people. And I feel that we are losing this in the entire world there. So there will be certainly a withdrawal, and I don't know, is it in 14 or later,